Super Bowl 53 is in the books, and the Dallas Cowboys can look back on a better-than-expected 2018 campaign. Having won the NFC East with a 10-6 record and bowing up to eventual finalists Los Angeles Rams, the Cowboys' young team can look ahead to 2019 as a chance to take another step forward. The offseason is now upon us, with the NFL free agency period opening in the middle of March and the NFL draft coming around at the end of April. Until those times, experts, pundits, and fans are left to assess their teams and predict their activities in the running to the start of next season. The Dallas Cowboys are in a precarious position, with the team exceeding expectations, still being very young and having plenty of cap space, but also having many top-end players set to become free agents and being without a first-round pick in this year's draft. There does, however, appear to be a way for the team to make improvements and solidify their place atop the NFC East and potentially go on to win in the conference finals. Lock down the big guns at Randy81 Moss retires. Via Twitter, Mini C. DeMarcus Lawrence as the top potential free agent this spring, so the Dallas Cowboys need to do everything in their power to lock down the 26-year-old defensive end. Vice President Stephen Jones has emphasized the team's target of retaining their own stars, per Star Telegram, with Lawrence, Dak Prescott, Amari Cooper, Ezekiel Elliott, and perhaps Byron Jones being in the discussion for long-term deals. As it stands, the team will have roughly $48.5 million in cap space for next season, which leaves plenty of space to re-sign their top players. They look set to let go of Tavon Austin, David Irving, and quite possibly Cole Beasley, among others, leaving a need to add reinforcements. Add new talent at for kicks. Via Twitter, one of the most heavily rumored moves for Dallas in this free agency is picking up native Texan and former Legion of Boom linchpin Earl Thomas, per Forbes. Against the Rams in the playoffs and throughout the season, the Cowboys lacked a defenseman who could make plays on the pass. Thomas is one of the notorious ball hawks in the league, boasting 28 career interceptions, 3 of which came in just 4 games of last season. If the Cowboys can re-sign their stars while keeping some space for an Earl Thomas-sized contract, which clocked in at $10.4 million in 2018 for the Seattle Seahawks, their odds of going all the way next season will significantly increase. Right now, the expected names of the New England Patriots and Kansas City Chiefs lead the odds to win the next Super Bowl at 750. Behind them, the Rams sit at 900, having suffered a suffocating defeat in this year's Super Bowl. Much further down are the Cowboys at 2,500 right now with Redbet. If they re-sign Lawrence, pay their young stars, and bring in Thomas, they'll shoot up the table of favorites. Then, there's also the additions in the draft to consider. The Cowboys may be without a first-round selection, but that may end up working in their favor. Round 1 of the 2019 NFL Draft is set to be laden with defensive selections according to most mock drafts, with a few quarterbacks sprinkled around and a minimal selection of offensive weapons. If the Cowboys re-sign Lawrence, they'll be looking good at defensive end, so should then turn to giving Prescott another weapon in the passing game, which will also help to keep defenses honest and give Elliott more room to operate. As stated, the NFL is a passing league, and Prescott exploded once he was given a viable option in Amari Cooper. Michael Gallup is expected to take another step forward next season, but just in case, the Cowboys can add another strong receiving option in the draft thanks to the strength of the defensive class. A.J. Brown of Ole Miss will almost certainly go in the first round, but exciting talents in DK Metcalf, Paris Campbell, Marquise Brown, and Deebo Samuel could all still be available when Dallas rings in during the second round. Improving Dallas' pass options and pass defense will go a long way toward improving the team and allowing them to push on to a bigger and better campaign in 2019. Dallas Cowboys DeMarcus Lawrence Earl Thomas free agency NFL draft. It's no secret the Dallas Cowboys and Earl Thomas share a mutual interest in one another. Thomas has publicly stated his desire to join America's team, and the Cowboys did their darndest to make that happen last offseason. Nothing ever materialized a year ago, but it's looking as if the stars have finally aligned and a union between the two could merely be just weeks away. Surprisingly enough, the Dallas Cowboys may have dodged a bullet last year when the Seattle Seahawks refused to part ways with their all-pro safety. Not only would they have had to surrender a high draft pick, but they would have also had to extend Thomas's contract. Fortunately, timing is everything, and now the Cowboys might just have to do the latter. A potential contract between the Cowboys and Thomas is of course what I want to dive in today. I'm not going to get into numbers right now, because it's nearly impossible to project any kind of contract for any safety this offseason, especially for the former Seahawk, Earl Thomas. Free agent FS Earl Thomas, photo by Otto Gruel Jr., Getty Images. Right now, it's a little difficult to know who might have the advantage in contract negotiations, Earl Thomas or the Dallas Cowboys. A lot of times the one that has the leverage, however slight, is the one that gets the better of the deal. As surprising as it may be, the Cowboys might just have the advantage here, and I'll tell you why. First off, this year's market for free agent safeties is pretty stacked with starting caliber players. See below: Earl Thomas, Landon Collins, LaMarcus Joyner, Tyrann Mathieu, Adrian Amos, Clayton Geathers, HaHa Clinton Dix, Glover Quinn, Trey Boston, Kenny Vaccaro, George Iloka, Jimmy Ward, Adrian Phillips. Earl Thomas is obviously the headliner here amongst the free agent safeties, but having so many starting caliber players available could drive down Thomas's market value just a bit. This is especially true when you take into consideration the market for FA safeties just a year ago. It was almost a complete standstill last year, with only Kurt Coleman signing a 3-year $16.5 million deal with the New Orleans Saints. Not even that honey badger, Tyrann Mathieu, could get more than a 1-year deal. With all of these safeties available in free agency, we could be looking at another stingy market. This of course could be good or bad news for the Dallas Cowboys, especially as it pertains to Earl Thomas. Since he is the top FA safety available, everything could once again be at a standstill until he is signed. Free agent FS Earl Thomas, photo by Andy Lyons, Getty Images. Of course, we all know this will ultimately come down to determining Earl Thomas's market value. There is no denying he is still arguably the best free safety in the game today, but there are concerns about his age, 30, and the 2 lower leg injuries he's sustained in the past 3 years. Even with the loaded free agent market of starting caliber safeties and Thomas's age and recent injury history, he's still likely to receive a contract that earns him $10 million annually, give or take. It wouldn't surprise me at all if he gets another 4-year deal worth $40 million, $25.7 million guaranteed, with a $9.5 million signing bonus like he signed with the Seahawks back in 2014. The Cowboys of course would probably find a 4-year $40 million deal for Earl Thomas acceptable. They would more than likely front-load the contract with a lot of protection in the details. They have the cap space to make this happen and still be able to sign their own, so money shouldn't be a problem. Now, whether or not Thomas's market value may dip a little due to all of the above-mentioned reasons will be something we will have to wait and find out. Regardless, I'd be a little shocked if Earl Thomas doesn't finish his career with the Dallas Cowboys. Do you think Earl Thomas's market value will take a little hit this offseason? What a difference a receiver makes, right? As Dallas fans, we know the impact of a player who can shake coverage, get open, and catch the ball. How was the season going before the Cowboys pulled the trigger for Amari Cooper in the deal with the Raiders? Cooper proved to be the lightning rod and a turning point in a season that was growing increasingly dismal. Dak Prescott and Cooper went together like peanut butter and jelly, while the Cowboys stormed to a division title and a postseason berth. Now, imagine all of that times 2, maybe even 2.5 if Antonio Brown could be had from the Steelers. Scary, right? We understand there's only one ball to go around, but that didn't stop Kevin Durant from joining the Warriors, did it? As of this writing, the best online sports books like Intertops are dealing Dallas as the 7th of 16 choices to win the NFC Championship at odds of 12-1. Imagine how those odds would shrink if Brown wore a Cowboys uniform next season, giving Prescott the luxury of not one upper echelon wideout, but that plus an elite receiver. Hut, 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 and a few clouds of smoke later the Cowboys would be moving the chains or celebrating in the end zone. Brown and Cooper would be a devastating combination with Ezekiel Elliott coming out of the backfield. Brown was made for Dallas, it gives him an even grander stage than the one he shared with Ben Roethlisberger and Le'Veon Bell in Pittsburgh. Despite the fact that the boys haven't won a Super Bowl since Barry Switzer was roaming the sidelines in the mid-90s, America's team still resides in Dallas. But we need a game-changer, and Brown is just such an athlete. But what do we give in return, and will that cost be worth whatever productive years Brown has left after this one? Let's not forget that the mercurial Miami native will be 31 when the season begins, and men who make a living with their legs don't get better at that age. But Brown is so good and so unique that, even if he drops half a click, he's still amongst the best in the game. That level of talent is hard to replicate, and it could be the missing piece which allows Dallas to be a legitimate Super Bowl contender next season and the year after. However, up to this point, we've been very good at dreaming of a Brown to Dallas trade but haven't quite worked out the details. It takes two to tango, and if we expect to get the Steelers' attention, we need to give them something valuable in return. Dallas surrendered their first-round pick 27th this season when they traded for Cooper, so that's no longer an asset. Pittsburgh would be vying for a first-round pick and likely more for Brown's services, but some have speculated Dallas would consider dealing rookie standout Leighton Vander Esch. Wait, what? We know, you're clutching your pearls, and the words are stuck in your gasp. We get it. The kid was a home run this past season, leading the Dallas defense in tackles and earning a Pro Bowl invitation in his inaugural NFL season. But this would be a Faustian deal. The Cowboys give up a player who is poised to be a stud for years to come for a playmaker in Brown that could render a Super Bowl in the immediate future. Brown's expiration date will surely turn his milk sour sooner rather than later, but in the here and now, Antonio Brown could be the bell cow who leads the Cowboys to the promised land before he's put out to pasture. Just something to think about. Matthew Emmons, USA Today Sports, to say it's been an up-and-down start to the career of young cornerback Anthony Brown would be an understatement. As a sixth-round pick in 2016, everything Brown contributed during his rookie season was a plus. Due to injury, he was asked to step into a greater role as the season went on, and he performed well enough to make the front office comfortable, allowing multiple veterans to walk for nothing in free agency the following spring. Brown looked like a legitimate starting cornerback in the league, and when Dallas brought in Chidobe Awuzie and Jordan Lewis during the next draft, the young secondary seemed set. Then 2017 happened, and Anthony Brown struggled, really struggled. These struggles, coupled with the emergence of both Lewis and Awuzie during their own rookie seasons, made Brown's status heading into 2018 rather uncertain. Some wondered if they would trade him for a day 3 pick, others thought Brown could even end up being cut. Jordan Lewis and Anthony Brown were slated to compete for the nickel cornerback job in training camp, and as it turned out, all Brown needed was that one extra chance to compete. Brown won the job outright during the preseason, and began 2018 as the starting nickel. A fan favorite, most thought Lewis would reclaim his rightful spot on the depth chart sooner or later, but Anthony Brown's play, and Chris Richards' preferences, kept Lewis on the bench for much of the season. Simply put, Anthony Brown balled in 2018, and was the Cowboys' second-best corner for most of the year. By the end of the season, Chidobe Awuzie had regained form, but Brown and Byron Jones were the most consistently reliable corners on the roster all of 2018. Brown tallied 44 tackles, 2 sacks, and an interception in 2018, and finished third on the team in pass breakups with 8. As the slot corner, Brown had an excellent season, especially for a former 6th-round pick. Now he enters a contract year, and with the Cowboys having so many guys to pay over the next 2 off-seasons, he could find himself as an unrestricted free agent in 2020. And if he can keep up his play from last year moving forward, he could be in for a nice payday this spring.